Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming out. My name is Carson. I've been building Shopify themes and working on themes-related projects for about 2.5 years now. And by the end of this talk, after talking a little bit about how we build our themes, you're going to have a better development workflow, a better idea of how we build them internally, and a few tools that I think you can take back with you that are really going to help you in the future. But no good talk is anything without a bit of history first. Back around the time I started, 2013, there was definitely a little room for improvement in our theme store and in our free offerings. We had no team dedicated to building these themes. It was people that would do them on their free time, on like hack days or something, and we'd release them. Or we bought some from partners and released those as free. If you look in the bottom corner, we even had mobile-only themes, which if you tried to pitch that today in a meeting, you'd get laughed out of the room. So one day I was on a walk with one of our long-standing designers in Toronto, and we started talking about themes. He had an ulterior motive. He was trying to build a themes team, and he wanted me to join. And he really convinced me in a way that I think is handy to share with you a little bit. By the numbers, this is already outdated. We have over 243,000 merchants. The majority of them have an online store, which in turn means they have a Shopify theme. You've heard the number twice already today, but 20 billion hits to themes, or to storefronts, a year. That's incredible. And we had no team dedicated to building them. Numbers are only so good at proving a point. Really, these are entrepreneurs. These are small businesses. These are people that are trying to solve a problem or really just hated their 9-to-5 and wanted to do their own thing. Well, a theme is going to be part of that journey. And 3 years ago, we were taking that way too lightly. So we started the themes team. And we built this theme called Supply. And it was pretty hard. Liquid was brand new to me. I had some PHP background. Don't throw anything. Our documentation, I would say, was adequate. It was there, but needed some work. The free themes that we had available, like I said, all built from different people. These were full of spaghetti code. I didn't know the difference between what was a best practice and what was just an absolute liquid hack. And in general, e-commerce is kind of tough. It's a little different than what I'd built in the past. Wasn't impossible. We built a theme, and it's pretty great. So what helped? You've all seen this. If you built a Shopify theme, this cheat sheet gives you pretty much every insight into Liquid that we have. This was built and maintained by a long-standing Shopafolk, pretty much on his free time. I actually got to sit beside him while I was building themes, so that was a fantastic resource. Very similarly, I got to work in-house. I know it's a little unfair to some of you, but I got to sit beside a designer that had built a theme before. He knew the ins and outs of Shopify and e-commerce sites. I had a theme support team that I had on call. It was fantastic. And that's something that I think this entire conference is about, and especially this talk, is really sharing that love with you guys. Now, I'm not going to be jumping around the stage, but I really do, as a developer, like to make my life a lot easier, and in turn, my entire team. And that's what I want to really extend to all of you today, anyone that's building a theme on Shopify. I'll do that today mostly by walking through our development process a little bit and giving you the insight of how we build our themes, along with release a few new tools. We have a new cheat sheet for you. We have Theme Kit, which is going to be a new cross-platform theme syncing tool. And lastly, what I'm most excited to talk about, Slate, a new toolkit for really optimizing your theme development workflow with a starter kit theme. So let's talk a little bit about this process. At first, we were a team of two, designer and a developer. We could move really quickly, and we did. We got a lot of themes out in a very short amount of time. But we did this not in a very structured way. If I could scale this out and go through all the pages, there were probably 4 or 5 of these that had absolutely no structure to them. I think one of them says remove console.log. There was no oversight by other teams. We kind of had free reign to just go do what we wanted. When our team started to grow in August 2014, our pace slowed down a lot. We hadn't really figured out how to work with these larger numbers more accurately, or probably even more honestly. I had the naive thought that every developer that joined my team was going to work in the exact same unstructured way as me. I was pretty wrong. It was clear pretty quickly that we needed some sort of system in place to handle this growing team. As of today, we have over 20 people in 5 different cities. That includes theme support and people working on new themes. 1 repo for 14 themes and more in development. It's kind of crazy. We handle this potentially disastrous situation by having a pretty well planned out workflow. And the same one is going to work for a team of 2 and a team of 50. It's scaled really well for us so far. And this is what you really need to remember as a developer anyway. Your job's going to start well before you start coding. You've all done the water flow approach where a designer hands you something and then they say to build it. You don't want to do that. You have your own ideas, right? That are really going to benefit the product. At Shopify, we work alongside our designers from the get-go. When we're doing a project brief to wireframes to low and high fidelity mockups, we're talking to our designers daily, either in person or Hangouts or on InVision all the time. We call this the explore phase. The explore phase is all about answering questions. You're trying to look ahead and see what roadblocks, what walls are going to be in your way when you go to build some of this stuff. We're going to figure out what's going to be reused so we don't have to write the same code multiple times. How long is some of this stuff going to take? What kind of code are we going to need? Is this Liquid? Is this JavaScript? Is this some external API? And potentially the most important one here, is this going to work everywhere for everyone really quickly? We're going to do this by breaking things down into modules. I'll use the word modules kind of liberally. It's any piece of code that you can build aside from any other piece of code, whether it's a header, footer, a little product card, or a feature like infinite pagination. By breaking those things down into modules, and with this help of the very beautiful spreadsheet, we're going to put some numbers beside these. Now, the numbers themselves don't mean anything. It's really just a ballpark of the level of effort each module is going to take to build. A 1 is something that's going to be really quick, maybe an hour or two. A 3, a few hours here and there. 5, a day or two. It's very rough. And an 8, you don't really know. There's some unknown questions that you need to still figure out. Once you add these numbers up, you can get a pretty good idea of how long this is going to take you to build, which is nice. Set yourself some goals. But mainly, we're really trying to validate that the ideas and areas that are taking a really long time to build are going to be directly in line with the key features of your theme. Now, there's no point of building something out for a couple days if merchants and users aren't going to really benefit from it. So try to avoid those things. By the end of this explore phase, you should have a pretty good idea of how you're going to build most of this stuff. But that 8, like I said, is kind of an unknown. It's kind of you don't know exactly how you're going to build it yet. So you can prototype it. Now, it doesn't matter how many meetings you go to, how many mockups you're going to look at. You're not going to know how performant something is until you have it in your hand. You're not going to know if it's going to be working on every single device. And how are you going to build it? What code is going to be used? Sometimes this can really lead to revisiting your design. Again, getting away from that waterfall technique where you were handed something and you're told to build it. Every developer's had that thought, well, it would make more sense if we did it, this way. Or, hey, we can't do it that way because the browsers won't let us, something like that. Well, having a prototype in your hand on your device, it's going to win that argument every single time. I'll give you a little bit of a story about what's coming out of our Montreal office right now. We have a really cool theme that is, we're trying to really build stories around some of our products, especially ones that have different variants. So our designer came up with this really cool idea, even had some animation mock-ups of how it was going to work on desktop and mobile. Theoretically, it was fantastic. But we built it out. We made sure that what this idea was, what these interactions were all going to work. So I think it was in CodePen. And we figured out some browser limitations, especially on mobile, wasn't going to make it work. We had to go back and kind of rethink the architecture a little bit. We saw that wall ahead. We saw a potential disaster in our build phase, and we fixed it way before we even got there. And then you can start building. On this point, you've been on a project for a few weeks. You've answered all those questions. You know exactly how everything's going to go. Put your headphones on, and you just work. It's the best. It's my favorite phase. But I can guarantee you, if you don't plan ahead, this is going to be your least favorite phase and probably one of the slowest ones. Every time you hit a wall and you got to think, oh, how should we do this instead? Or, oh, I thought this was going to work better on mobile. By the end of the project, you're just going to be looking for that light at the end of the tunnel rather than really focusing on the project. By planning out front, you make this the smoothest part. I'll give you a little example of one time we failed at this. We were building a theme a few months ago, and we had this cool little action bar, is the best way I can describe it. It was a way of getting people into deeper collections quicker, and it worked great, theoretically. We figured out how it was going to be built, all the JavaScript. We figured out the interactions, the animations, and everything, but we never prototyped it. So in the build phase, we hit a wall, and it sucked. the entire thing came to a crashing halt. We had to figure out, OK, how are we going to do this instead? Now, the problem, that wall that we hit, was that our design had a little action bar at the bottom of the screen on mobile. If you've ever built something on iOS and opened up that web view of Safari, I still don't understand it, but there's a little part at the bottom hidden, a little hidden area that if you tap and you think you're hitting a button, you're not. You're getting a little iOS menu. OK, this might be useful for some of you. I don't understand it. So we had to go back, and we had to change the placement of this thing. We had to make sure that the content and every action that we wanted users to take was still going to work. And we learned from it, and now we prototype a lot more stuff. And then you build each module. And have a little checklist here. As a developer, you should already have this in your head a little bit, but you want to make sure that you're checking all of your work in different browsers, in different devices. You want to make sure it's responsive, accessible, do performance tests if you need to. And then you'll put up a pull request. Pull request is mainly for code reviews. There could be whole talks on this, so we won't get into it too much. But this is to make sure other developers on your team are really validating those ideas that you had in that explore phase, that they're making sure you made the right choices. They're doing sanity checks and making sure it's production quality code. At the same time, something that I think is overlooked a little too much is having designers look at that pull request too. They don't have to worry about the code itself. They have to look at some sort of staging link to review that module as you're building it. So you get a thumb up from your developers to make sure, OK, the code's ready to go, and you get a thumbs up from your designers that say, yep, that looks and acts and feels exactly like we want. And then you merge it in. And that's all we really do. The only thing left is, if you're a Walking Dead fan, you know this guy's not talking about pull requests and modules, but you get into a very cyclical flow. You build a module, you review it, and if you want to continue the reference, swallow it into your master branch. And then repeat. Grab a new module, keep building. And this works great when you have multiple developers, because everyone's working in little siloed areas on the same project at the same time, so you have the same context to review each other's work, but individually of each other. One last little checklist for you. Again, these could have their own talks, but you want a design review. You need your designer that's been looking along the entire project to give a holistic view of the project once it's on your device, on your screens. You want your senior designers to be looking at this as well. And depending on your team size, that feedback loop will really change. But it's important to get that holistic view of the entire project reviewed before you launch. And secondly is a bug hunt. A bug hunt's my favorite thing now, because the best way I have to describe it is we're incentivizing people to really break our shit. We're going to give them $10 and see if they can find an error in the theme, whether it's a JavaScript error, whether it's a huge product title is going to break the image, or break the layout, excuse me. And we'll give them $10. So generally, we've been paying out anywhere from $100 to $150 per theme. And when you look at the theme store, we have thousands of people using our free themes. If one of those people doesn't get a bug, it's well worth it already. This has led to way fewer bugs post-launch, because we're getting people that aren't normally on our themes team really looking at these projects and figuring out ways to break them that we hadn't even thought about. So I'd absolutely recommend you try it out. But at the same time, if you don't do very good reviews throughout the project, this could get very expensive, and I'm definitely not liable for that. So what was that all about? Why do we really need to talk about process? Well, having that technical ability, whether it's design, development, UX, et cetera, is only a part of what's really going to be that's part of that successful build. Now, I'll ask you, do you think the top shots on Dribbble are really the best designs in the world? Maybe. But we don't know. That's the real answer. Why was it built that way? What was it trying to achieve? Did it work? What did they try that didn't work? Now, I ask this because I'm not saying crap all over Dribbble. The final result should be celebrated, absolutely. But the real value is going to be derived from what is unseen throughout that entire process, answering all those questions ahead of time, thinking about your users and your merchants. And we've been trying to do that for the last few years at Shopify. With the process that we're using and the tools that we've built, the quality of our themes has gone through the roof. They're faster, they're more accessible, they're responsive, no more mobile-only themes, and the quality is only getting better, especially as we're adding more people to our teams. Now, I'm preaching to the choir here a little bit, because I've seen some of your work, and it blows my mind. I'd love to hire all of you. Come talk to me. I don't think I'm supposed to pitch, though. It's obvious that you're doing a lot of this work. You're really doing the hard work to figure these things out at the beginning. Check out beautifulstores.com if you haven't seen it already. It's a fantastic source of inspiration. I like to think of it as the e-commerce version of Dribbble, but better. I'm a little biased. You can dig deeper than a screenshot. You can test these products out. You can add something to cart, see what their interactions are. It's really, really good. Definitely check it out. But enough about process. I could go on all day. Let's talk about some of those tools that I promised you. You can get your hands on right now. First and foremost, we don't need this from the client. I just updated it. We have a brand new cheat sheet for you. Now, I was really excited to announce this, even though I had very little to do with it. But I think there's a few coasters going around right now with the URL on there, too. It's a fantastic site. I didn't actually know how much I didn't know about Liquid until I saw this new version go up. Secondly, it's ThemeKit. This is also available immediately for you right now. It's our new open source, cross-platform theme syncing tool. Finally, Windows users can use this too, which is great. Our team's been using this exclusively in beta for the last few months. And something I get asked about by a lot of partners especially is, how do you handle different environments? How do you work with a staging environment and a client shop? ThemeKit makes this very easy. You can add separate environments and push your code directly to anywhere you want. Development's the only one that's hard-coded. Everything else, you name whatever you'd like. Now, no matter how many developers you have on your team, you should all have your own dev shop. No questions about that. On the other end of the spectrum, you have a client shop. There's only one. Pretty much never touch that. And somewhere in the middle, you have a staging shop. Now, a lot of people I've talked to will have a separate URL, theme-client-staging.myshopify. And that works. You can do that. But my real preferred method, especially during development, is working with an unpublished version of a theme. You can send people a link directly to an unpublished theme for them to review. So I'll build something out on my dev shop. I'll push up a pull request, duplicate that theme, and then send the link with that pull request to everyone that needs to review it. I go back to my dev shop, keep working, and they can look at a perfect staging site with all the same content that my dev shop normally has. Similarly, do that on the other side with your production shop. Push it up there, and then your clients can be reviewing things that has the exact same content as their production shop without ever leaving that URL. Lastly, I want to talk about Slate. Slate is a brand new toolkit that we've built internally for building our own themes. It's the best way to get started with just the bare essentials of what you need for Shopify. And it's absolutely going to streamline your development workflow. We know this because we've done it, and we've built our last two themes, Venture and Boundless, with this new tool. Now, it's going to include just enough to get you started without really imposing anything on you, but it will have some suggestions and best practices. And let me get into that a little bit. First off, this is powered by Gulp. Pretty straightforward, but the best part about this is it gives you a developer-friendly environment. A lot of our partners have these kind of built out themselves, but it's something that we really never led the way on, and we're finally going to try to help do that. By having a separate source folder where we actually build our code and a dist folder, which is kind of that Shopify-approved theme structure, we can build things out however we want. We have separate folders for our CSS, our JavaScript, and some icons as well. And they'll all get concatenated and put into that final folder. This is going to work great with ThemeKit as well in those different environments. And it's obviously extendable by you. You can add, edit, do whatever you want with this. On the Liquid side, I mentioned that e-commerce is a little tough to build sometimes. So we've helped you out with that. All the Liquid templates are there. We have 20 now, including 7 customer ones. And in those templates, the basic Liquid objects, if statements, loops, the things that you're probably going to need on those pages. We have some SEO best practices, such as the schema.org tags to make sure that your products look great on Google, and I think Bing's that other one. And social meta tags. If you ever built these manually with different content types, you have homepage, products, articles, all this stuff, building those manually suck. This is all done for you. It's customizable, 100%, but you're probably never going to have to touch it. Again, please don't throw anything, but we do have some styles that we're going to include here. But first and foremost, this is not a CSS framework. Those are very tough to manage. They're very opinionated. Everyone has something to say. Instead, we're just providing those absolute bare essentials. All are optional. Remove one line of code here, and it's gone. You probably already saw up there, there's a grid. We've tried a lot of grids. We always come back to this one. You probably won't want to use it, although it's fantastic. Our docs will show you how to use it. But there's no classes throughout the files that you're going to have to remove if you want to change the grid. Just like any other hidden things here, you're probably not going to have to edit them, but they're really, really helpful. There'll be a lot more on this in our documentation. Similarly, we have some JavaScript helpers. Accessibility is a good example. If you want to stick around and learn more about accessibility, Steve's on right after me. I have things like fast click, which we can remove pretty soon. We want to make sure the videos that merchants are going to embed are going to be 100% responsive. Those iframes by default aren't. And the only JavaScript that you probably will need to edit, but we gave you a little bit of scaffolding, is for product variant images. Maybe you have a medium green shirt and a large red shirt that are the same product, but for some reason have a different price and obviously a different picture. Well, we've set up some very basic JavaScript that has that all done for you, and you can go in and customize it to your theme. Now, I use the word toolkit a few times because frameworks, there's some bad connotations with it, for me at least. Ones that don't have documentation or examples, they're not going to be up to date. Or probably the worst offender, it tries to include everything under the sun. It's the worst. So that's why I really want to stress, this is only the basics. This is that skeleton. There's nothing that you have to undo on the off chance that you want to. It's simple and quick. Our rule of thumb so far about building this has been that if every theme is going to be using a component or a helper, we'll add it to Slate. And this leaves the door open for you, as the developer, to really make all of your own decisions about tooling, about your front-end approaches, and everything. This tool, at the end of the day, has made our lives a lot easier, and I think it'll do the same for you. And that really sums up kind of what I wanted to talk about today, is helping you with what we struggle with on a day-to-day basis. So as of right now, you can already get the cheat sheet and theme kit and test them out. Theme kit's still technically in beta, but like I said, it's in a fantastic state. A little bit later this year, likely coinciding with the release of the new online store editor, we'll release Slate, and I didn't really kind of pass this by anyone, but I'll give you the source code for Venture. So you'll be able to see what one of our themes looks like before that gulp process in our development structure. And you're going to have a whole bunch of sections in there to kind of see the way that we've come up with building these things. Just an example, but I think it'll be really helpful for you. Now, I speak extremely quickly, so hopefully I covered everything and you could understand. But I do have some time for some questions that we'll run through now. And if you want to talk a little bit more about some specifics, either about what I've talked about or themes in general, I'd love to chat in office hours tomorrow. So thank you very much. I believe questions come out. We'll have some runners with microphones. So just throw your hand up or stand up, and we'll point you out. Oh, right here, right up front. Sorry, a little hard to see.
Thank you very much. Do you have any best practices around content, specifically things like navigation, collections, syncing that up between staging and production and whatnot?
There are some tools out there that will help. I think we've actually been talking about it with our team a little bit, is how can we, either a part of ThemeKit or Canvas, Slate, how could these things really be optimized so you have just like some quick little code to do this for you? As of right now, no, but it's absolutely something we're thinking about, for sure. That's why I really like the duplicating the theme method, is because you don't have to worry about that stuff.
Yeah.
I think right up front here.
Okay, so I'm not a developer, but I'm speaking on behalf of one of the developers. You may have covered this, I may have missed this, but a big pain point is GET requests and push and pulls, and you're talking about that being possible. Is that part of ThemeKit, or how does that work? Is that possible today, or is that just internal for you guys?
It's internal for us, but that's not really a part of what I would say ThemeKit is. I think by going through our flow with really separating all of your kind of your JavaScript and CSS into these smaller files, and having different developers on the team, you can kind of, we don't have a tool to do that, but it really is something that is doable by separating all these files out. I know there's a lot of teams out there that will use things that will push directly from like GitHub and that, but it's not something that we use internally. Okay,
so is that available to just the general public? Can you do that now?
Yeah, there's one. I forget the tool name. I don't know if Steve's out here, but there is one. I'll find it for you, and come find me later, and I'll get you the info.
Thanks, man.
One at the back there.
Hi. How do you find out when you've updated one of the store themes?
Sorry, I can't see where you are. Oh, okay. Perfect.
How do we find out if you have, like, say, Brooklyn or one of these free store themes, when you make updates to the code, how do we find out about that if we use one of those themes or build on it for a customer and they want to go back maybe and take?
We don't have anything set up in place right now. We're talking internally about figuring out a better way to version these things. So exactly that, you will know, like if something comes into our theme support team and it says, hey, something doesn't work, well, what version are they on? We may already have a fix for it. We do need to be more transparent about releasing that stuff. Right now, our process is we make a change, we merge it into our master branch, and then we have a tool kind of behind the scenes that will push out updates to every single person that's using that theme, as long as they haven't touched their code. So it's not very transparent right now, but it's something that I definitely want to look into more.
Would there be a change log anywhere we'd find out about?
Yeah, there's going to have to be. And I'm not sure if that'll be something on our blog or something that we can handle somewhere else, but it's definitely feedback I'll bring back with me.
Thank you.
Right up front here. Over here on my left.
Hey, this might not be exactly on topic, but it kind of reminded me. With the theme marketplace, you build a theme, you get it published and people can buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to be true for sections? Can you build sections that you can publish for sale on the marketplace?
It's not something that we've come up with yet. It's absolutely a potential in the future. One of the thoughts behind some of these things, as you heard this morning, was you can build them in one file, and you can actually have your CSS and your JavaScript right in there too. So we're not going to discount it right now. I think we need to explore this a little more, mostly see what some of you build, and see if that's going to be something viable for sure.
Cool. I guess one other thing
Sure.
is there a good way for non-developers to have product variants display as unique products?
Pardon me? So what was the last part?
To have product variants display as unique products. So I've got a store with, they have 5 products when they launch.
Mm-hmm.
But they have like 5 variants on each product. So that to make it, seem like they have more products, you either build them as separate products,
Mm-hmm.
or you display one as a variant, and then you have to do pretty custom JavaScript to have them display uniquely.
Yeah, there's nothing like in Liquid by default that will do that, but you would be able to loop through each variant. If come talk to me in office hours tomorrow, I could kind of give you a little rundown. It's a little specific, but definitely doable. A little complex, but doable. Right up front here. Right behind you, sorry.
Hi, this sounds really incredible. I'm excited for it to come out later this year. I'm
Sweet.
just wondering, where would Timber fall in place with everything? Is it going to be updated at all, or is it now obsolete?
I was wondering if that would come up. We are going to kind of sunset support for that. The reason I put that slide in about hating frameworks is because as one of the core people building Timber, it got out of hand. It became this CSS frameworky Shopify starting thing, and there's a very special place in my heart for it, but we're going to be sunsetting support for it for sure. Right behind you this time.
Hey, for sections and blocks, I've noticed you've been using BEM and Timber and probably going to continue to use that. Is there a BEM methodology you want to use going forward so that we can use sections and blocks from different themes across all the different themes that are available in the theme store?
Sorry, you're just asking for like the terminology we use itself, or?
No, if there's a methodology in BEM that you want to be using for sections and blocks so that you could have, for example, a store for blocks.
Nothing planned out yet, I don't think. Thibaut and Russell this morning will probably have a little bit of better answer for you, but it is in such an early phase that we want to make sure that we get some feedback from you guys and like some of our themes that we'll release as well and figure out how we're going to build these the best way, what people are going to come up with, and then we'll be answering some of those tougher questions. Anyone else? One more behind there.
Obviously, this is going to be quite a major for all the theme developers out there. With existing themes, what are you guys going to do to support sort of or adding all this new functionality to all these existing themes on the theme store?
That'll be tough. The short answer. The longer answer, we're working right now in actually building out some of our existing themes, Venture and a few other ones, to include some of these sections. So you're going to have a really good insight of how we do it based on some of those. Like I said, I'll throw that source stuff out to you. We will be opening this up to some of our developers later this year so that if you want, you can start building new themes or converting your old themes with this new updates. I've gone through now just with different little experiments and seeing how hard it is to take all those global settings and move them into sections. It's shockingly straightforward. Sometimes you'll have to build some new stuff, like for your actual sections and what you want those to be. But if you want to convert old themes, we'll have a spot and kind of some guidance to help you with that.
Following on from that,
Yep.
we found as a theme developer that Shopify often pushes the support back onto us, particularly when a merchant wants their theme to automatically be updated. Is there going to be a change in the process for Shopify for people like out of the sandbox who have thousands of people using their themes who are going to suddenly expect it to be updated for free?
I don't think we're going to have as big of an issue as we potentially could. The people that have the themes, not that they don't know what they're missing, but they're very happy, likely, with what they have. It's the new people trying out the new themes and see these new functionality that's really going to do it. But going back to your support thing, it is kind of up to you guys that own the themes to update them if you want. It would definitely be beneficial to update them, and will help along the way, but most of it will be on you guys. Right in the middle here. Sorry, I'm ignoring this side. I'll come to you next.
Yeah, a couple quick questions on the new framework. Not framework, to use a bad word, but it looks great and it's amazing. And obviously, a lot of us have a lot of stores that will be starting soon, and will most likely finish about right when it sounds like this is coming out. For us, how should we approach that for the fact that this would be like if we knew responsive sites were coming and we didn't prepare, and then the client gets the site and it was like, well, what the hell, you guys knew about this, and you give me my site and it's not, you know what I'm saying? How do we prepare for the fact that developing a complex site is going to take 2 to 3 months? And right now in that process, we have to do it in a way that we know will be instantly out of date when we put it out.
It will be a little tough. I think we don't have anything that's going to probably satisfy you 100%. I can't release, or we're not going to release Slate right away. And even if we did, the code isn't 100% ready to launch. So anything that you would build with that would probably have breaking changes well before you were ready to launch. So there's no real easy answer. You just kind of have to take what you've learned kind of today and tomorrow, and take that back and start thinking about those ideas. From the code side of things, like I said, with updating older themes, it's not going to be extremely hard. So if you build a theme as you would today, you will still be able to convert it to that new format.
Yeah, I just wondered if there was maybe like a set of code examples like you've shown on the screen, like so that, I mean, I guess we can go back when you guys re-air this and like pause and then try to rip the code language out and build to be ready for that. If there was some way where we could be adequately prepared for the jobs we already have in progress so that we don't feel blind, or our clients don't feel blindsided when this comes out. Kind of like I said, even if you pull that code out, it won't be working perfectly as you expect. So I don't think that'll be the best idea, but we will be releasing things on our blog, and our developers will be sharing how to do these things. So there might be a little bit of a blind side, if you want to call it that, but it's really just a different mindset of building themes. The code itself, it's new, it's not going to be that much different. So I don't think it'll be too painful to make that switch. I know it's not the exact answer that you wanted to hear, but we're going to share everything with you. Like I said, all the knowledge that we have, all these things that we're figuring out right now, we'll share it with you the best ways we can. And I'd love your feedback if you had any ways that we could share that with you too. I mean, for us, mainly it was just if we could have a development store that could not go live, that was running with a beta, like in our partners panel, if we could go in and say, open up a dev store using the new code, knowing that it's beta and it can't be pushed live, but then we can have a chance to play with it before it's ready.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is the plan. Please don't quote me on that. I'll have to talk to Thibaut about that one. But it isn't going to be like we flip the switch and we are the only people with themes in the theme store. We will make sure that partners have that kind of even playing field as well. There was one over here as well. Oh, you can go first.
When we go to maintain things, either by that have been changed by other people or by the client, the first thing they say is, my thing's broken, and the second thing they say is, we didn't touch the code, which is, we've grown at that point. Is there any change log that we have access to see what was changed on what date within the theme code? Because at the moment we're trawling through individual themes, trying to look at the history, but the timestamp on the site versus the time zone is really, really confusing with that.
Cool, that's great feedback. I like the people that say they never touched the code, but they did. So there is a timestamp, like you said, on every single file, but I don't think there's a way to kind of get like a full list of what would change. I'll definitely bring that back to the team because I like that a lot.
Thanks, because particularly with the point about how do we go and retrofit this functionality, the easier it is for us to see what's being changed.
Absolutely.
The more quickly and cheaply we can do the retrofit.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you so much. And I think I have time for, I'll do 2 more. I'll do you, and then, did you have a hand up? Just scratching. All right, and then one over there.
Hi. So clients love page speed. And Shopify, for every theme that I've built, can only ever get so far as like a great page speed. And that's due to some render blocking scripts that are coming from the Shopify side and the assets side. How do we get beyond that? Is there any roadmap for that being async or anything like that? Are those files being concatenated on your guys' side so there's less files?
Yeah, that's kind of what we're working on. Like you're probably talking about like the option selection and that kind of stuff.
Version.
Yeah, so what's going to be included in Slate will probably be a really small subset of some of that stuff. And so that way we don't have those blocking things. Even JavaScript, or sorry, jQuery in the head and Modernizer, we're fixing that. We don't want that anymore. And we definitely will address that for sure. Cool. Totally done? Okay, totally. No more time. Like I said, I do have office hours tomorrow, or come find me. Name is Carson again. And thanks so much.